is the Lockpicker 1969, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to the next episode of Interview with the Lockpicker. Today's guest is, how do I even pronounce your name?
Yeah, it throws a lot of people off. Most people just call me Nick just because it's shorter and easier to say, but Nickvit.
Nixvit. Nickvit?
Yep,
Okay.
Nickvit.
What does that mean exactly?
It's an acronym for my job title, non-invasive cardiovascular tech.
Okay.
Primarily deal with outpatient and inpatient cardiac testing, EKGs, stress tests, heart monitors, and so forth.
Okay. That sounds very involved. Okay. So,
Yeah, about 8 years worth of knowledge to get to where I am with it.
oh, wow. Okay. Well, uh, more power to you.
Mm.
So, where are you from exactly?
I'm from the Bluegrass State out here in Kentucky.
Okay. You lived there your entire life?
Yep,
Okay.
yep, born and raised.
Oh, wow, okay. Born and raised here in Michigan myself.
Oh,
So how and when did you get into locksport?
so it was earlier this year, actually, just in May. I had a wild hair, seen videos and stuff on YouTube here and there and whatnot, and thought it'd be a interesting skill to have just in the back pocket. So I ended up ordering a little cheap credit card set from Temu or Temu, like Wish.com. A
Yep.
little
Yep.
James Bond came with a city rake, a short hook, a snake rake, like a half diamond, and then a double-sided Z bar for tension, and use that for a while just to kind of learn the basics and how everything's going to go together.
Okay, so what do you mean by a while?
Um, so I used that one mostly up until Orange Belt.
Oh,
So I
wow.
got that. Yeah, I got that one in May 31st. That got delivered, and then I submitted for Orange Belt on June 17th.
Okay.
Um, and I think after that was when I ordered my next set, which was just a cheap Amazon set
Uh-huh.
that everybody always complains about, the
Yep.
Chinesium picks. But
Yeah.
that's, I still have two hooks from that set that I keep in rotation and will use. But then those are what really got me up into blue belt and higher before I started upgrading
Really?
to better
Okay.
quality. Yeah.
Okay. So have you evolved beyond the Chinesium Amazon set?
Yeah, right now I'm mostly using law lock tools. I ended up getting the hooks from the Valerian set and the Valerian Euro, not the whole set, just because I was never really interested in the rakes. So just got the hooks from that. And that's what I've been using more than anything else. I recently got some of Jimmy Long's hooks since
Woo!
yeah, I'm liking those.
Jackpot.
Oh yeah, yeah. When he was able to get the manufacturing set up to have a better stock on hand,
Yeah.
I think that's going to be big. The gym hooks are nice, but primarily I like the flats with it.
Okay.
And then just last week I got the oh, what are they called? I think the extra shank on the Mokies, where they're a little bit thicker
Oh,
in the yeah, and I got the flats in that too. So,
okay. Haven't seen those yet.
but yeah, they're part of the Gold Digger set that he has. But now they're offering them just on their own. Picked those up from Lock Picker's Bench, and then the Ridgeback set while they had that on sale.
Every time I think I've gotten out and bought them all that I want to get, somebody goes and just draws me back in again.
Oh yeah, no, it's I've never been one to shy away from tools, regardless of what hobby that is. My
Yeah,
grandfather always told me a tool is never a bad investment. You may not need it now, but you may need it down the road.
yeah, yeah. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Unfortunately, because when OCD takes over, then you're in trouble.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, what challenges did you face learning lockpicking then?
A lot of it in the beginning was moving from, your white belt locks, your generic laminated padlocks, or the cheap deadbolts that you can get at the store that don't really have much in them other than, 4 or 5 pins, standards, moving into some of the yellow belt and orange belt and higher locks.
Hmm.
The spools started tripping me up at first, just because, if you don't know how they operate or how they're going to function in the lock, I think I've broken it. It only goes, about a quarter of a turn and I can't get it to go anymore.
Sure.
But learning to deal with those and then tension control. But here lately, it's just dealing with some of these extra security measure in the higher belt locks, like the side bars and side pins, and coming in at different angles.
Yeah, and you mentioned having to learn float picking as well.
Yeah, no, I'm still terrible at that.
Me too.
That's going to take me a while to get used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned along the way, though, that you were having trouble with a specific lock that seems to be one of those rite of passage type locks.
Oh yeah, definitely the 1100. I
Yeah.
think that was the I don't want to call it roadblock that I hit, but it was definitely the first speed bump. Um, Getting on that one because up until that point, you're only dealing with security drivers. You don't really have security key pins involved in it, and then learning to not overset the pins and what is a pin state to picking up the jiggle test and everything else.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that helped me with that was searching on the subreddit, the LPU Reddit page, and came across a comment that was a few years old from Lockpicking Fisherman where he was recommending people use thinner picks in the lock. So dropping down to not a 15 thou, but maybe a 19 or something, and switched over to that with a pick that I had made, just dabbling around in that. And within 2 minutes, I had that lock open. And I think it came down to using the thinner pick forces you to not be as aggressive with
Yeah.
the pressure that you put
Yep.
on the pins.
Not to
Yeah.
bully it so much.
Yeah, yeah, because
Yeah.
it's one of those locks where if you bully it, you're gonna get stuck.
Yeah.
And then
Definitely.
realizing that I'm not chasing, you're not going after the open necessarily on it. You're looking for that false set and then testing after that slowly until it breaks open with that pin or the spring that's holding the core in.
Okay. So, what has your challenge been lately?
Bouncing between the Goal Z and the Goal GP.
Uh,
I have, yeah, I've got a Asus or an ASA 700 with the Christmas trees and gems. That when I'm feeling good and want to be humbled, I'll put that in the vise to try to mess with the float picking. And then I've got a twin 6K with that lovely ASA sidebar in it. And then just trying to figure out the best tension to get those set.
okay. So, all right. So, when you're learning picking and all that, I would imagine the same as everybody else, you turn to YouTube at some point. So, you've had some
Oh, yeah.
influences from YouTube. What were yours?
So I think we all, everybody has seen the lockpicking lawyer videos. He's got like a million or so followers. But then coming across, from his channel, finding Bosnian Bill's stuff where he's talking about different things, and his video where he talks about how to become a better lock picker or the secret to being a better lock picker. And
Okay.
that video is really neat because it lays out a progression of locks for you to follow
Yeah.
to learn the skills and whatnot. And then some of the shorts that McNally's put out in the past with the cutaways showing the different pins and so forth. And then Lock Noob's video where it's like an hour long video of how to pick every lock, where he goes through all the different components of the locks and what you use to pick it and how they work together, just in a short form for each little thing. But that's a ton of info in that video.
Okay. So, you needed to get involved in the community at some point. We all go there to get help because you reach a
Hmm.
certain point, you can only get so far on your own. So, how did you get introduced into the community?
So really just going through different YouTube searches and Google searches, trying to figure out, different ways to open these locks. Ended up coming across Sandman's video talking about the belt system, which then led me to the subreddit, and then getting on there and, lurking for a while at first, just going through, seeing what people are posting, reading the comments, trying to soak in as much knowledge as I could,
Yeah.
and then, putting out pictures or videos of, packages I got in the mail or locks that I had managed to open and ask for help. Um, and then that led to the Discord channel, where I got on there, and that was where I really got drawn into the community.
Okay.
Yeah, was on there, and it was posting in the challenge lock channel on there. Got introduced to Hyperion Darkness and Loose Shirt over one of these challenge locks that I was asking if anybody wanted it, and then got really involved with a lot of people through that. Loose kind of pulled me into the challenge lock community, made a lot of friends and acquaintances, and a lot of packages, exchanged
Yeah.
between people. And then one of the videos I had posted for my purple belt was this unholy lock, in my opinion. It's a Kale Kill It 164 BNE, and it's a dimple lock that has opposing pin stacks. So it starts over and underset on all these different pins, and the top pins are basically master wafers glued to a tiny little spring. Um, but Lock Junkie had reached out to me about that lock and was really interested in it, and ended up getting in touch with him and Keybeard and sending them each half of a double Euro cylinder so that they'd be able to pick it. And
Huh.
that kind of really drew me into everything else and getting involved with all the different pickers and channels and everything else.
Cool. Okay. So, you've mentioned multiple times about your different belt pursuits. What was your
Mhm.
journey like?
Um, so up until last month, really, it's kind of flown by. The first belt that I submitted for was an orange belt, like I said, in June, and that was the Master 532. Then in July, I submitted for my green belt. In August, I submitted for my blue belt. And then in beginning of September, submitted for purple, and beginning of October, I submitted for brown.
Okay.
So it's been kind of a rocket, going through there, because like you had mentioned, the OCD kicks in and you're like, I have to do this. I got to get
Yeah.
through it. Yeah.
The power of locksport compels you. Um,
Yes. Yes.
so what was your? So you had to do a challenge lock for blue. What was yours all about? Tell us what that was like.
So that is, of all of the locks I've put together so far, I think I'm at 14 or 15 locks now that I've sent out to the community. Of all the ones I've put together, I think that one I'm the most proud of in terms of presentation on it. It was a Packlock 90A base, not the Pro, just the 6 pin. And I had done some engraving and weathering on the outside of it and called it Red Dawn. Ended up sending that one to another picker named Yabo, who he's on YouTube as well. He's got some videos out there for people to check out, but he was willing to take my first challenge lock to help me get that blue belt. And he was able to get it open, which always a bittersweet moment when somebody cracks your lock.
Yeah.
But I did send a note with it saying that he had to yell out Wolverines once he was able to open Red Dawn.
Okay.
Uh, and then it caught the eye of Lady Locks, actually, and she ended up putting it on her channel just to kind of show it off as something cool she found on the Reddit page, which is
Okay.
really neat to have that put out there.
Yeah. Very cool.
Mhm.
Okay, so you said you make challenge locks. What's that all about for you?
So it's kind of, I don't know how much of a gamer or video games and stuff that you get into or play, but you buy a game and you play through the campaign or the story mode on it, and you learn the basic function of the and mechanics of the game. But to really hone those skills or to show, I guess, progress or mastery of it, you go into the player versus player and PvP side of it.
Yep.
And that's kind of how I think about the challenge locks. It's I'm going up against another picker. I'm going to put something together that hopefully, doesn't frustrate them and, make a
No,
hole in
fun.
drywall.
You want it to be
Uh,
fun. You want to make a
right.
fun lock. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But putting something together that's going to challenge them and kind of push them maybe beyond where they're currently at to the next level or skill, but also, give them something that's going to be fun that you're not going to pick up anywhere off the street. So
Sure.
I think the custom aspect of it, but also, kind of throwing out the gauntlet of, can you beat me? Yeah.
The challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But here lately, though, I've been making challenge locks for specific people or skill levels to send out. I made one to send to Dots Locks, who was the last interview you had.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
I got in touch with him over YouTube and the Discord, and he'd never picked a challenge lock, was really interested in it. And I was like, well, hey, what if I make you one? And I'll send one over to you. What locks have you picked? Get an idea. Because, if somebody's first challenge lock, you don't want it to, stump them. You want them to get into it,
Yep.
light that excitement up. And I think it did its job for him. He was super excited about that lock.
You have that definitely in common with a few other lock sporters. Jay Gabriel comes to mind too. He makes locks specifically for people as well.
Yeah, his stuff is evil looking though.
It is evil. What are you talking about? He's a mad scientist.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I said, and I've talked with him and gotten some advice on some of the pins and different uh, alterations to the course to get into, like with the trench traps, trying to get
Yeah.
that deep fall set to throw them off. Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
yeah. And then Bird B1's been really helpful with the challenge locks too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your YouTube channel, what was your original reason for starting it?
So originally I made it just so I could post the belt submission videos, and my first one, it's on there, but it's private because my face is fully exposed in it.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
yeah, but then I was like, there's all these other channels out here of people picking locks, and they're not talking. I can do that. I can throw some videos up with some lock picking.
Yeah.
So I kind of started with that, and then the giveaways. A lot of people do
Yeah.
giveaways and want a video submission for it. So I was like, well, I can submit those on here.
Yeah.
So just kind of started going from there. But then it turned into I'd be on Reddit or Discord and somebody be asking a question. And you can only, type out so many words to try to explain a concept to somebody. So I was like, well, if somebody's asking a question here, I'll make a video real quick, upload that, and then I can send them the video link, and maybe that'll be more helpful than trying to read,
Yeah.
3 paragraphs on your phone or computer screen.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned some possible ideas for your channel in the future, though.
Yeah, no, I do have several ideas of how I would like to progress it or see it go. Um, I know I've been putting out these videos or how-to tutorial videos for newer pickers, taking them up to right now, following the videos, we should be able to get up to blue belt. The last one I put out was on challenge locks.
Mm-hmm.
But explaining the different concepts and showing those with, I've got a couple cutaways that I made to show how the pins are interacting between the Bible and the core, how your pick's moving in there, explaining, things like jiggle test and overset, underset pins, different security pins, how they'll behave, just so people can get a better idea of what
Uh-huh.
they're encountering in the lock
Yeah.
to maybe help them get that open. So that's kind of the main focus I'm going towards now. But I also plan to have more picking videos, and then go into some deep dives on specific locks that people may be challenged on. like the 1100 or the
Yeah.
ASA, or I'm sorry, ABIS 7240, or different things, kind of like Artichoke's videos where he's put out about the sidebars for the ASA pins and other locks. Um, that, once you have the general knowledge, then you got to narrow it down into this one particular lock I have issues with.
So I know one of your interests or hobbies is machining. Did that start with locksport, or did you have that going on before locksport?
It mostly really started with locksport. I mean, I've had, like, we talked about earlier with different tools and things. Like, I've always had plenty of tools on hand to do stuff, and always been a DIY type of person. If we
Yep.
had something break at the house, you don't always have the money on hand to call out a professional, so you got to learn to do a couple things here and there. And then woodworking, dealing with the wood and power
Yeah.
tools and hand tools,
Yeah.
working with that. And I think all that carries over into the challenge lock making with, pin modifications and
I think so.
everything else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Oh yeah.
So, do you have any thank yous that you'd like to give to any other lock sporters?
Yes. So obviously, like I mentioned earlier, I wanted to give thanks to Yabo for taking my first challenge lock to help me get up into the blue belt and beyond. Um, and it's always nice because when you get to that challenge lock, you got to send it to somebody, and you don't know any of these people. So it's always nice when it's a good person on the other end that's willing to help you out. Loose shirt for really getting me into the challenge lock community, and then everybody that's been there with that. Burn B1. Um, I probably owe him the biggest thank you, since he's the one that sent me a lock for the key impressioning quest for
Okay.
black belt. I was able to get DIY DM lock junkie, just for his energetic force of good that he puts out into the community. Um, Nola Southpaw for all of his encouragement. Um, NCR, he's a young picker, but he's full of ideas for some challenge locks, and just he's got a great zeal for everything going on. C Stu Do for all of his encouragement, as well as
Yeah.
Mitten Maid.
Yep.
That Mitten Maid, that's a more people need to get in and help with that
I
one.
I
That's
agree 100%.
Oh yeah. Um, and then Mitten Maid was the last thank you I had for it. I think it's a great thing. I've got veterans in my family, and some of them are dealing with disabilities. So having something out there that can help those people
Yeah.
either cope with or overcome issues that they had from their service is a great
Definitely.
thing. Yeah.
Definitely. Okay. All right. Well, last question before we wrap up.
Mhm.
What is your favorite thing about Locksport?
So I thought about this one, and everybody always wants to say just the community as a
Yep.
whole.
Yep.
But I was like, I don't want to go with that. So I think making the challenge locks for other pickers. I think that's my favorite thing about it. Sending out, the first one that they've ever gotten, or sending out locks just to, mess with your friends or try to stump them on it. And then just the excitement for when they finally get that open on those challenge locks, knowing that you put in all this time and effort to prevent them from doing it, and then they were able to overcome it.
Yeah. Well, I think it gives you a creative outlet
Oh
and
yeah.
one that you know is going to be appreciated.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because
And then always the names. I'm a big fan of punny names.
you mean for themed locks?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I can.
yeah,
I have that same thing with making challenge locks. It's
yeah. Loose Shirt has one in the pipeline coming his way that's called Baggy Blouse.
okay. We'll have
Yeah.
to see that one. And I need to have you back to do an interview for Challenge Lock Workshop. I think that would be a very interesting interview to go into more detail about all the locks that you've made
Oh, I'd love to do that.
and your methods and all of that. So I would love to have you back for that.
Oh, for sure.
Um, uh, do you have a final message you'd like to give to our audience?
Challenge locks are a good thing. They are important to the belt system and building the community.
Yeah.
They keep lock sporters going, and don't think they should go away.
No, I heard that was going around about whether it should be removed as one of the requirements for blue belt. I don't feel I feel it should stay. So
I agree.
I wouldn't
Because
have touched
it's
it
going
if
to
it
get
wasn't for
people
that.
connected.
Yep,
Oh yeah,
I would have never even tried one if it hadn't been for that.
exactly.
So, all right. Well, I want to thank you for doing the interview and spending the time talking to me. It was a lot. It was a lot of fun, and
Yeah,
quite a few things are left about. And I am definitely going to hound you about doing another interview for the Challenge Lock Workshop. So, um,
Um,
with
you just
that,
tell me a day at a time.
you got it. So, with that, I am going to wrap this one up. But would like to say first, we need more people to interview. If you haven't interviewed yet, step forward. What's holding you back? It's a fun process. I try to make it a fun thing to do, and let everybody know about who you are and what your interests are. And you don't have to be a super accomplished lock sporter. We just want to hear people's stories and get to know everybody. And we're all here to help one another. So let's keep that going. And with that, I'm going to wrap this up. If you are a subscriber, thank you. If you are not yet a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications and all, and hit like on the video. And thanks for listening.